Okay guys, so I was browsing MechGroupBuys and I stumbled upon something truly unique. The Fruitbar by Fruity Keep. What immediately stood out to me was the form factor. It's like a TKL without the numbers, or the function row. Fruit sent out 2 boards, only one of them made it out alive. My bad. The first part of the build was soldering in the diodes. Oh, Jesus. All of them are in here, there's 2 left right here. I might actually desolder that one. This is like really a lot. Desoldering stick with some of the sock. Did that actually do anything? Let me hit it one more time. Is it this one? I don't even know which one it is. 2 of these ones suck. A lot of sucking later, and here's the board so far. Got all the diodes soldered in. With through-hole components, you have to clip the legs off of the other side of the circuit board, so let's do that. That was almost as satisfying as this segue to today's sponsor, PCBWay. PCBWay is a leading PCB manufacturer that can bring prototyping ideas to life. Through its PCB printing, CNC milling, and 3D printing services, with low prices and fast turnaround times, PCBWay provides a way to realize your own custom keyboard ideas. Shout out Sviz and Ansel. So a huge thanks to PCBWay for sponsoring today's video, and you can check them out linked in the description below. Now because I hate myself, I decided to throw in some 0305 Milmax sockets. Alright, I'm just gonna... I just knocked all of them out. I'm gonna go get a piece of paper, I'll be right back. In all seriousness, I found soldering these things really fun. Piece of paper, I'm gonna flip it over. This video is about as good a tutorial on how to get laid as it is for building this keyboard, so please don't use it for either. I can, however, show you a proper Milmax hot swap installation. It's as simple as heating the socket and solder pad and letting the solder flow evenly around the socket. If the top of the socket isn't totally flush against the PCB, just reheat it and push it in harder. Yeah, that's about it. Please subscribe and like the video. I don't really have anything else to say here. But after doing this, you'll end up with some nice hot swap sockets. The Fruitbar group buy had 2 options. You could either get the Elite C controller or the Pro Micro. We're going to be doing this particular board with the Elite C, but we're going to be doing the Pro Micro one later. If you happen to have gotten your Fruitbar and you haven't built it yet, please don't do this, whatever I'm doing here. I basically soldered in the controller to the vias first, and then I I don't know what I was thinking. But please, again, do not use this as a tutorial. I quickly noticed that unlike Kale hot swap sockets, the Milmaxes are pretty tight, which is not very desirable in this context. After cutting myself on that Tangerine, I proceeded to solder in the vias to the PCB. Just a warning, when you're soldering in a controller, make sure you don't link any of the soldering pads because then you'll have bridged connections and that is very, very bad. So just be very careful when you do this part. With the vias installed flush against the PCB, I got to installing the OLED screen. Believe it or not, I also did this entirely incorrectly. And the poor vias ended up in, well, despair, as you can see here. Next we have this rotary knob, which is a pretty cool feature. It's basically like installing a switch, except it has just a couple more pins, and all you have to do is solder them all in. The Elite C is compatible with the rotary knob, but the rotary knob is not compatible with the Pro Micro, so you'd have had to bought the Elite C with the rotary knob in order to use it. Strangely enough, one component we were missing is electrical tape, so I actually walked down to Target and I picked some up like mid-recording because it was listed as optional on the guide, but then it said that you needed it to install like the Elite C because of the way the switch legs protrude and then it might touch some of the metal contacts on the Elite C, but that's okay. Here we're applying it on the top of the vias where they protrude from the top of the PCB so that when the OLED is sitting on it, it doesn't bridge any connections. Here you can see me like fiddling with the vias because they were all bent and crooked from the previous installation, but eventually I got it to work. I tested to see if the plate would fit over it because the OLED screen is supposed to be flush against the top of the PCB. After clipping and cleaning up the vias, we can get onto our stabs. Today we're just using some Duroc V2s for this board, but we're actually going to be using something a little special for the next one. I opted not to holy mod these stabs and instead just lube them with Krytox 205G0 so we don't get any mushiness. Before we screw in the stabs, let's just clean up this area. There's a lot of like desoldering stuff, and here's a good time to plug the Discord. I do have a Discord, it'll be linked in bio if you want to talk to me directly. I'm pretty lonely, so yeah, you can do that. I'd really appreciate it. Anyway, Banggood sent over the Wowstick 1F, which I'm sure you've seen before, but it's actually so much nicer than I thought. So here's a little mini unboxing just to appreciate it. It comes with a screw pad and some other stuff. It comes with a ton of bits actually. And as far as electrical screwdrivers go, it's just really nice and clean. So thanks Banggood for the Wowstick. Also nice. Now after screwing in the stabs, we can check out our switches and keycaps. The switches, which I guess I hinted at earlier, are going to be Tangerines because, well, it's called the Fruitbar. The keycap set we're using for this board is GMK Laser from Drop. This was actually sent to me for free by Drop, and it's a pretty slick set. It's kind of like 80s theme, you know, pink and blue, classic. I do wish I had a fruit-themed keycap set, but I couldn't get my hands on one in time, so we're going to be using this today. Since we've converted our PCB to Mil-Max, we can actually just pop in our switches to the plate like we would on any hot swap board. I followed the guide on filling the arrow cluster with the rotary knob because then it's a little more secure when you put the plate in for the first time. I did end up with quite a few bent pins. The Tangy pins are pretty weak, and the Mil-Max sockets being so tight prevented them from just kind of going in. Anyway, here we have the bottom of the Fruitbar. It's basically just another plate. It's FR4, like the plate itself. There's no fancy gasket mounting here, it's just some standoffs, and all we have to do is screw in the bottom to the top. So let's get our Tangies in and the board will be almost complete. Unfortunately, after a lot of trying, I couldn't get this board to type, but here's a modifier test. Before lubing, I did wire balance these stabs, but still pretty impressive. I'm kinda digging the split spacebar, and I wish I had more kitting for the other board. Speaking of the other board, let's get on to building it. This build process was much smoother since I knew what I was doing. I had basically used the first one as trial and error, and here we are. For this board, we're going to be using a standard 6.5U spacebar, as well as no rotary knob, and we're just going to be using a Pro Micro. NK Creams might seem like a strange choice in 2022, but they do have a place in my heart. I had the pleasure of trying out TX stabs for this build thanks to my friend. His store Creamery Co. is selling JWick Yellow extras at 19 cents a switch, the lowest price in N8 to date, but they're pretty limited, so go grab them before they're out of stock. And thanks for the TX stabs. Kitting is pretty standard with 4 2Us and 1 6.5U. With these specs, this Fruitbar is definitely an endgame build, so let's check out the sound test. I ended up being pretty impressed by the sound and aesthetics of this board, so huge thanks to Fruit for sending out these review samples. Before wrapping up the video, I decided to take the Fruitbar to school to see what some of my friends think. So stay tuned for some of their interesting reactions. What do you think about this keyboard?
Okay, show me the keyboard.
This is a very special keyboard. Notice anything missing?
I mean, there's this guy.
Geeky ass keyboard. Got my Pokemon in this bitch. No, who it? You know what? Whatever.
Can't tell what's missing?
The numbers are missing.
The numbers are missing. He figured it out.
So what's the use in it? Why would you have a keyboard that you can't put numbers on?
No, you don't need numbers.
What do you mean? You don't need numbers.
What do you mean you don't need numbers?
That's the beauty, guys, of a 40%. You don't need
That's
numbers.
facts.
You suddenly don't need
Math class, bro.
Most of the stuff that you write isn't going to be numbers.
Look,
No, it depends on what you do.
If you hold...
Harry has forgotten what computers were originally designed to do.
And you
Oh,
do...
shut the
If you hold this, you do a P, you can do like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8,
Okay, that's
9,
cool,
0.
that's cool.
Okay, what's your reaction to the feel of it?
Alright, let's get how does it feel, Harry?
They're not easy enough to press.
They're not easy enough to press. I think that's 67.5 grams. Or 67 grams.
Wow.
Yeah. No, I hate these.
Cops find you with that?
I like the Apple.
What would you give this set of 10 as far as functionality and aesthetics and feel? You know how much this was? This reindeer?
Like $50.
More.
75.
More.
150.
No. Less.
125.
Well, with shipping it was 100 on the dot.
Okay, 100 on the dot.
Dude, what purpose does it serve?
It's cute.
And then